Good evening, foreignologists. Welcome along to the show. It's a Monday evening. To me, that's that will be long remembered as the day after the day that indeed Liverpool went to Old Trafford and won 5-0. It's also the day that we found out that a hiker that was lost for 24 hours ignored the calls from rescuers because he didn't recognise the number. Because you have hiker rescuers' numbers in your pocket. And it's also a day when we get to talk about many different things and lots of good things. It's also the week leading up to Halloween. It's very strange. When in Ireland we have a bank holiday in October, the last Monday of October. I don't know what the story is there.
Do you know Halloween was invented in Ireland?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Dia del Muerte is what they invented in Mexico. Anyway, it's
just ghost walking past behind you.
No, that's my private life. I don't talk about it. Anyhow, where was I? Yes, it is. We beat United 5-0. There's not really much else to sort of lead in with, but like there's a few things that we're going to discuss around it. I think it's a victory for everyone that supports Liverpool Football Club. It's also been a victory for those who don't support Liverpool Football Club but use Liverpool Football Club to talk about things on podcasts. And it's also a massive victory for everyone who loves and hates everyone by equal measure. Because, I don't know, it just seems to be a strange world. But ultimately, I think, for me, I'm still a wee bit in shock. And I know we'll get onto it later, right? But I'm still a wee bit in shock. Because it's funny. Sometimes you expect these things to happen. And then when they do, it's still even more shocking that they actually happened as opposed to thinking why they should happen. Because football really follows the line of logic. And what happened was following the line of logic. But right at the top, Andy, I want to open with your topic. And your topic revolves around squad depth because this allows us to discuss everything that was great about the win yesterday. And allows us to discuss, in general, where this club is at this moment in time, despite the doom and the gloom that was around the team in August, because we didn't sign insert random player that was never, ever being signed except for some fucking lunatics and yahoos on Twitter made names up, and people want to believe them over the fact that all the journalists for the best part of 2 months were saying our business was done. So, Andy, squad depth, does this... This, given what we just did, does this not just highlight how strong this squad actually is?
Yeah, I was looking there. We are strongly linked to Rafinha, weren't we, in the summer? And he's injured now, so that wouldn't have been much use, would it?
Did you see the tackle though?
Yeah, but look, no. The point is, players that you're linked to, players that come in, still get injured as well. There was a meltdown before that game, as usual, about the team selection or who wasn't available. We haven't a hope anymore. Blah blah blah. Such and such a start. That should be the end of that now, forever. But how I am applying that logic to reasonable people who don't moan about it anyway. It's normally the lunatics. But there you go. Like 25 players Liverpool have used this season. You know what I mean? And we're just at the end of October. 25 players. And out of all them 25 players, they've all played a very important role. You know, everything about that Klopp team is about people, everyone from the players on the pitch to kit men to canteen ladies to everybody. They're all involved. Yet, time and again, you have people complaining before there's a ball kicked. And what did they do? They went out there and they, as you said, logic was is rarely applied in football, but there it was yesterday. I don't think I had the balls to predict a 5-0 win. I was shitting myself all morning, all week. We talked about the fear of playing United last Monday night, but I mean, everything that happened yesterday should have really been expected, but you couldn't put yourself to think like that. So no matter who Klopp picked, they were going to go out and do the business, and it was unbelievable. I can't get over, it doesn't get much better. The list of different things, the face on Ole, the Ronaldo goal being disallowed, the away fans and the chants and the Ole's at the wheel, and it was just so good. Their fans getting off at 20 minutes before the game finished. It was just absolutely perfection. And Solskjaer is still in the job. They called it a win-win. Well, Liverpool won, and Ollie's still at the wheel, for the foreseeable. There was a tweet went out.
Where's the win-win, eh?
Yeah, I mean, there was a tweet went out by the club this morning, and I was waiting for refreshing my phone just to see that they get thrown a bit of support. But he's going to be in charge for at least another 3 games, so let's enjoy them.
And the more about it, but bring it back to the topic, Ray, in terms of the squad depth. Like, there has been a question over how deep the midfield squad piece is at the moment, given the amount of players that we have missing. And we were missing Fabinho, missing Thiago again. Right? And the question through the summer was, should we have signed someone to replace Wijnaldum? With the emergence of Curtis Jones and that midfield that played yesterday, I think it's a bit bonkers, to be totally honest with you. Like, and I'll say, look, I've been one of the biggest criticisers of Naby Keita on here, and I still think, and Shane, to echo your point that you text yesterday, I still think he has a mad game yesterday. Right? I think it's a mad game because to me, Keita has accepted the good bits that's about him, and Klopp has accepted the bad bits about him, and is trying to build a midfield to cater for his bad bits. If you get me right, so by having Henderson and Milner in there, he knows that he's got 2 cart horses, and people take cart horses being a derogatory term, right? But he's got 2 cart horses around him because it allows Keita to do all the mad stuff, right? But what he's given us on the ball when he goes to play in the space between, I hate to use the Rafaism, but to play between the lines, between the midfield and the forward line, it's just something a bit different. And it's like the 2 boys would work all day for you. The great lads, if they were on a building site now, they'd lash up, they'd sort out the housing problem in Ireland. They'd have all the houses built inside 3 weeks. Like, it's just, but for you, Ray, is this, because it doesn't, you wouldn't have thought that this is a really, really deep squad, but it's just surprising. It surprised me how well everyone is able to step in and just cover for whoever's missing. Is Ray stuck?
Yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, I am a bit worried about my connection here, but no, I mean, look, it is a deep squad, but the mad thing is, we're now seeing a lot of injuries in midfield. Obviously last season we had all these injuries at centre back, and we ended up in a crazy situation where we were playing, players who you would never have imagined would be our starting sort of centre backs, and you'll never see them again as our starting centre backs in all likelihood. The same seems to like we're getting hit a little bit with this injury curse now, and we feel like we were literally down yesterday to having Oxlade-Chamberlain, Hendo, and Curtis Jones by the end of that game. Now, we were 5-0 up and we were knocking the ball around and we were taking the piss. That was all fine and dandy. We really do need to start getting some of these other players back. We do need to, the Fabinho thing, we need him back sooner rather than later. We need Thiago back sooner rather than later. Hopefully the Keita injury isn't a bad one. Like, you can sign, we could have signed an extra player in midfield, but sometimes, these injuries are just completely out of your control. Who can predict that you're going to get a run of injuries in midfield like we are at the moment? So from the overall squad depth point of view, I think we're perfectly fine, but I am just a little bit concerned that we're getting this kind of bit of a curse in midfield at the moment. I mean, the other excellent part yesterday was that we were able to rest Mane, and we were able to bring in Jota and have that added dimension, that added threat up front, and Jota has got the ball in the back of the net, inside 15 minutes, that for me, like those 4, Perm and 3 from those 4 is perfect at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, we should be able to give Bobby rests. We should be able to give Mane rests. Would you ever be tempted to give Salah rest at the moment? The form he's in, probably not. But maybe the time will come against a lesser team. But I'm perfectly happy. Look at the goalkeeper situation. Queeveen Kelleher is a more than apt number 2 in goal. Do you know what I mean? And I think, we've seen Alisson have injuries, and he probably will go out for games again this season. So, I'm perfectly happy. I mean, the other irony here is Canate gets on the pitch finally. I know he played in one other league game this season, but we bought a player there who's hardly had a sniff, and he comes in and he's he's been there, playing there for 2 or 3 seasons. Like he was fantastic, and this is an absolutely rock solid squad. As long as we can clear up some of these injuries, I think we've got plenty there for us to last a whole season and challenge on every front that we're challenging on right now.
Shane, there's no to fucking destroy United like we just did yesterday, and it's just joyful. I was thinking about, can you think of a time when Ferguson came to Anfield and did that to us? Because I couldn't think of a time when they utterly humiliated. Like, we humiliated them. It wasn't even just a dominance; we humiliated them, right?
No, I can't remember a time where they ever came and done that. We used to do quite well against them, like when they were top dogs, and then we had the David James flapper games came into it, and that kind of broke that mold. But no, listen, the lads kind of like Andy said there, we've used 25 players so far this season. There's been a lot of rotation, and I think, listen, I would imagine Harvey is going to get back at some stage. Lads are saying maybe after Christmas. It'd be great to see he's another body back, but I think, like, Jones coming on, I think was a huge boost yesterday. I think he would have started if he was fit ahead of Milner, because that injury, it's a bad ball from Robbo, and he's trying to turn and get back after it. But that's purely down to playing so many games at his age in a quick amount of time. I think Jones would have started if he got a couple of days training under his belt. I thought Jones was probably he could have been man of the match maybe last year when we won 4-2 there without the fans. I thought he was excellent. I've spoke about him before on here. I think he's a real, like, he shouldn't be looked at, to me, as weak in our midfield if he doesn't play for me, Jones. And great to get him back yesterday. And listen, I know Thiago kind of gets injured, seems to, when he's getting out of his car, getting going training. But hopefully we can get him back as well. Because listen, with the rotation, you would imagine that he's obviously trying to keep fellas fresher for coming in after Christmas when you come down to, like, the meaningful time of the season with the Champions League and the league. And if we can get them fellas back refreshed as well, having not played an awful lot of games or have not had a huge workload, all of them, well, then it's probably ominous for the rest of the league.
Andy,
I mean, we love an injured player, don't we? I mean, you can think, if you think about it, like, Matip, Lallana, while he was at the club, Naby Keita, Thiago now seems to be, regularly injured. Like, this seems to be something that it's almost like a running joke at point, isn't it, to have these fellas knocking around?
I see people in the chat talk about United's midfield. Honestly, that's, who gives a fuck? Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly. Why would you want to be talking about United? Why like, nobody's talking about Spurs or Everton's team or Burnley's team or Norwich's team, because that's the standard of team that we played yesterday. Like, what's the point talk about that United team? There's nothing.
Well, Phil, I know you've said before, previous. I've seen you either talking on here and in messages when we played Everton that Klopp has treated them like they should have been treated. He made lots of changes for Everton games, and we've knocked them out of the cup with our second team. And I've seen a couple of tweets yesterday. I know they're tongue in cheek half the time, but Klopp makes like a couple of big changes going to Old Trafford in a huge game where, like, I agreed with Carragher yesterday about we kind of did need to win, not need to win, but it was to put a statement down. 2 home games against Chelsea and City, didn't win either of them, and Klopp makes a couple of big changes, and we're missing a couple of big players, and we went out and absolutely fucking destroyed them.
I have to say, I actually thought that and that's probably the biggest takeaway for me yesterday was it's one of the first times I can remember Klopp not treating this as an occasion and just treating it as playing an inferior team, right? A team that's so up its own ego that he knows that just by playing as Liverpool and playing our style of football and playing the way we're going to play, we're going to smash them. Like I just had that feel of the year before we won the league. Like, you know, that where we knew that when we were playing a bad team, we were going to absolutely smash the back doors off when we were chasing City that year. And I looked at, when you look at what Chelsea did with their 7-0 against Norwich, there was a real sense in my mind, even with Robertson screaming at the camera to keep going, there was a real sense that they felt that there was goals in the game to go chase as many goals as possible. It would have been great how we put up 7, 8, 9 goals against them. Like, that would have been fantastic. You know, they would have had a protest, and they could have blamed the Glazers for not saving the shots, and the Glazers for not being defenders, and the Glazers for not being for buying the replacement Ronaldo, because clearly that's not the real Ronaldo. It's just a replacement that they bought from Saudi Arabia.
Phil, that possession from 70 minutes onwards was every bit as good as another 2 or 3 goals. I mean, that was
no.
I want the 10.
No.
I
honestly, I was annoyed.
The way, you can't say that. The way Liverpool pinged the ball around and had them chasing shadows really put a stamp on the gulf of difference between those two teams. They're at home, and at stages for 10 or 15 minutes, Liverpool had something like 80% of possession. Okay, they could have pushed on and humiliated them, but 5-0 is a humiliation. And to knock the ball around, having them run around in circles for 20 minutes towards the end is every bit as good as a couple more goals, in my opinion. There was someone in the comments here, not too long ago, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, remind us that United were only 2 points behind us and we weren't to be getting carried away. Well, they're 7 points behind Liverpool now. And come the end of the season, they're going to be 27 points behind Liverpool. You know, this team deserves belief. It deserves so much belief. And what they did yesterday, Klopp's wife in the crowd, like he certainly put on a show for there yesterday, because Liverpool came out of the blocks really well. There was definitely a bit more intent, as we left ourselves way more exposed at the back than we have previously at Old Trafford. Like, Trent got up high in the pitch straight away, and Robbo as well in the past. We sat in tight and kind of invited them on. But they had a couple of early chances, from us losing the ball in midfield and then coming straight in on top of us. So Klopp went for it, yesterday, and I think that was recognising that they were a wounded animal midweek there against Atalanta. Was a Scholes said in the punditry that try that against Liverpool at the weekend or against Man City, and let's see what happens. And he was dead fucking right. Now, all that media stuff gets in people's heads, and they think that it might be a bit better than they are, and they believe in these things like turning around being a couple of goals down. They've done that a few times this season. But anyone who just ignores all that noise can see how vulnerable they are and how easy you can get at them. And Klopp knew it. Klopp knew it well. Their team are disgraced. They don't do anything as a unit. Look, we could have beat them 8-0. We could have beat them 10-0, but we beat them 5-0 and made absolute shit of them, popping the ball around and their players chasing shadows. They're a disgrace.
I tend to agree with you, Andy, on the kind of the pattern. Listen, I would have taken a couple of extra goals, but passing the ball around, it's kind of death by 1,000 cuts for them. Like, they were down to 10. They couldn't get their foot in the ball. But the thing that kind of jumped out yesterday was I kind of read a bit about the other couple of hammerings they've taken over the last few years. Like that Spurs game last year, 6-1, that a man sent off. You can kind of mitigate for that, even though it's obviously shocking to lose 6 goals, even down to 10. But the City game a few years ago, that City went there and won 6-1. That was 3-1 going into injury time. City scored 3 goals in injury time. We put 4 past them in the first 45 minutes when the game is really in the melting pot, when it's there to be won, where you're trying to get a foothold in the game and build to get that winning performance, and we absolutely fucking destroyed them. Like, it's over at half time. It's done, and that's the most, like, we humiliated them. There was nothing for them. If that was one of them, like when you were younger or in your schoolboy days, the manager gives the fucking referee a nod, go and play 5 minutes in the second half here, mate, and blow it up. That's fucking we've had enough.
I think in reality, if Pogba doesn't get sent off, I think that almost closes the game down in a way. Like, I think they come out in that second half still looking to swing punches, still thinking that they can make this a respectable scoreline. 4-0 down. You know, they quickly go 5-0 down, but I still think they're looking to end that game 5-2, 5-3, and we could easily have gone and caught them on the break multiple times. As it happened, it was almost from that point where Pogba gets sent off and there's a big sort of break in the game and Keita gets stretched off. And I, by the way, the Keita thing. Before that, they were really laying in with the tackles. Like they were to me, they were looking to injure someone. It felt like to me there was frustration there. We seen what Ronaldo was up to just before halftime. Like they were getting so frustrated, and like there was almost an inevitability of there being a bad tackle there. But if Pogba doesn't get sent off, I actually do think we continue to pick them off and we score 6, 7, maybe 8.
Do you know what's frustrating me there a wee bit, right? Like, and we haven't been able to talk about Konate stepping in because, like, you know, he's been sort of out in the wilderness, played a game out in the wilderness, and to come in for such a big game and play the way he did and show the composure the way he did to be able to step in. It's an indictment in the fate that Klopp has put on him as a player. It shows the future is actually really, really good given the age of Konate, assuming that he doesn't have any major injury problems. You wonder how you get past our two centre-backs when they're both fully up to speed, when you have Van Dijk and you have Konate here. You probably think to yourself, where does Gomez ever get back into this team? Gomez is becoming this season's Nat Phillips, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, because the way Matip is and the way Konate is being and the way Van Dijk has been, that unless one of them goes down with an injury, and you're probably thinking Matip is likely, like, then you need two of them to go down. And it's really tough on Gomez because he's fought back from a long-term injury. But it also facilitates Trent and Robbo to do what they do best, because the team aren't worried about being stretched, because the two boys are so good at being able to cover space and cover the fullbacks and cover quick counters that it's just amazing to see how this team has progressed under Klopp to have an identity in the way we play, a true identity in the way we play. The players come in and can play the exact same as somebody else, if not better. And even to the midfielders, like Henderson has taken absolute belters from fucking arseholes. I'm just going to say that, right? Like, there's no point in holding back. There's a crowd on podcasts and Discord and the whole lot that have spent their life abusing this fella, who's been nothing but the best captain that this club has ever had, right? Ever. There isn't a captain that comes close to him. And I'll tell you why. Because a fella to break the jinx, the course that existed for the best part of 30-odd years to win the league, a fella who's gone and won a Champions League, who supposedly can only pass sideways or go backwards or can't move and can't run, right? To be able to nail down the position he's nailed down. And then to basically wipe his arse, right? Take the shitty toilet paper and rub it all over their faces with that pass to Salah for the goal. It's just, literally, if you're basically the biggest complaint is that he's a crab passer and he only goes from side to side. I'd argue that I haven't even seen Gerrard play as good a ball. And I'm being straight, because when you look at it from that front-on angle where you see him slice across it to get the spin for it to fade out, and like that's meant.
Very, very similar to the storage ball against Fulham a few years ago, Phil. They're both nearly identical. It's unbelievable.
Outrageous.
Outrageous. Right? It was an outrageous pass.
It's outrageous. And you can see and you can see like it's designed to slow down. That whole thing, that's like a snooker player playing spin on a ball to get it back to exactly where it was. For it to go in, it's just staggering. And to think that he can only go sideways and can't run anymore, like, you know, it's that's even more staggering.
It's mad, isn't it? I mean, like, you're mentioning about like the people who've sort of criticised Henderson for all these years, even after he lifts a European Cup and a Premier League, and in that season he's named, player of the season. That these people have just doubled down on their opinions, and okay, he can have he can have an odd bad game or a couple of bad games, but like, his quality and his class and what he just, the fact that what he brings to this squad as the captain, Klopp puts a lot of trust in what he delivers as a captain. Whether he's on this is the other thing, whether he's not even I know we've got a lot of injuries now, but he's not even a guaranteed nailed on starter, really. But he doesn't. He doesn't complain. He's never, he never shows any kind of negative emotions towards that. He just gets, if he's sub and he gets on after 60 minutes, then he'll just get on and he'll impact the game as best he can. I mean, he's just he's a role model, and that's why he is who he is.
It's amazing. Like I can even see in the chats, people triggered by the fact that I said that it may have been a better pass than anything Gerrard played, and straight away, and Gerrard hit 20 a season. Gerrard just did. It is quite possible that somebody's played a better pass than Steven Gerrard for Liverpool Football Club. I'd argue, what was that goal I seen recently where Ronnie Whelan played an absolute humdinger from a corner in one of the cup finals from years ago, playing for Liverpool? Or was it for
against Spurs, the one that
the one where it just literally goes. It's outrageous. Like, Jan Molby, if you wanted to see incredible passes, get out a VHS recorder, stick on Jan Molby, and look at some of the ridiculous passes he made, in particularly the '86 FA Cup final. Some of that stuff was outrageous.
Just on Canate, though, Phil, that selection, like we know how good Klopp is, but like the last few years, any joy United have really got against us is they know Trent will go high and they look to get Rashford in that channel down. He scored a couple of goals on Trent's debut. And I actually like Rashford. I think he's a very good player. But he was obviously worried about that Klopp. He was going to go United because, as you have alluded earlier, they're not very good, but they can hurt you. So he knows Trent is going to play high. Matip is now slouch, but Canate is an absolute flyer and so quick over the ground. So he says, right, I'll put him in there. And if the ball goes over the top if the ball is played over the top, he'll be able to deal with Rashford. And it worked like a dream, to be fair. But look, we've seen, I know, Phil, you hate international football. I'm not a fan myself, but Ireland played the kind of Man United role against Portugal a couple of weeks ago, and they just kept putting the ball in over the rifle's head, and Pepe couldn't deal with it, and we should have got something out of that game, and we are absolutely dog shit, Ireland, compared to Portugal.
No idea what you're talking about. That's like saying, that's like saying Minute Town were playing Bangor last night, and you saw the lads sticking the ball in
the over 35.
Over 35.
But yeah, look, it worked a dream having Canate in there just as that safety net, because Matip is no slouch, but Canate is a fucking flyer.
Oh, listen, I think it's great, Andy. For looking at Canate is the centre back that a lot of people thought Mamadou Sakho was, isn't he?
I don't know what it is. Like every so often, the player comes along at Liverpool that people obsess over, like with no real basis for it. Like I'm a firm believer. Let these players develop and get into the team and make a reputation for themselves without all that pressure. And that's what the likes of Henderson has done over his career. Always seems to be batting away the doubters, and time and again, like also everything is being thrown at him about his tactical awareness. That he can't pick a pass, he's not a good captain, and all of these things have been disproven because across the world you've got admirers, everyone from Pirlo, Zidane, Alex Ferguson, and then anyone who knows him really well, who's played alongside him and managed him, like Klopp or like Stevie G. They really speak so highly of Henderson, but there you go. Like Sakho, Kanate's come in, people have talked up Canate, but just give him time to establish himself in this Liverpool team. He was absolutely excellent yesterday. He was excellent in the other game he played as well this season. He's an exciting fella to have there. So such a presence beside Van Dijk. The two of them must look absolutely massive to the opposition to have them there. It was Fred trying to put it up to him. There's loads of pictures doing the rounds today, but it really was like a father and a child. The child having a little tantrum up against him, and the dad just laughing, and that's what Liverpool are now. It's so exciting. The problems he had at centre back last year, and now we seem to have a wealth of options at centre back. Yeah, you wouldn't be bothered. Van Dijk is the glue there. No matter who plays beside, he's going to do well. But you wouldn't be bothered now if Van Dijk had to, was rested for a game or two, because Canate can play there on either side, and you've Gomez and Matip, who's arguably being the best out of pair of him and Van Dijk this season. and last season, when they were playing together. So yeah, it's just so exciting at the moment. I just can't understand the moan and
that's great. Like, think about
always...
can you remember a time when you think about Canada, you think about Matip, think about Van Dijk, right? And then you think, right, left back. Geez, you got Tsimikas. When you see Tsimikas' name on the team sheet, you don't think there's a step down here. You're saying Robertson has a proper competition for the first time since he's come into the side.
Yeah, Robertson. Yeah, sorry, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, you look at Trent, and he's probably the only one on the team that doesn't have real competition because the midfield.
But like when Trent has sat out, Milner's come in and done a very good job. And I mean, there's another player who seems to have this cohort, and it's the same people as well, like that don't like Henderson, don't like Milner. It's so strange. Like, I mean, you're a Liverpool supporter. Look what those two players have done for this team in the last few years, in the last 4 or 5 years, especially, and what we've won and the big nights we've had, and how important them players, like, James Milner, no matter where he's being asked to play, where he's playing out right back, left back, in the middle of the park, in a more advanced position, he gives absolutely 110 every game. And he comes in, no problem for Trent. No problem. Stick me there. Happy days.
Even Wijnaldum to an extent, Andy. There was a lot of, haters of Wijnaldum sort of thing. On the never anyone in the crowd who would get on Wijnaldum's back, but there was this cohort of people who would say, what does Wijnaldum do? I mean, it just seems to be these players who they don't necessarily turn on the style gaming mode, but they are the engine room. They're the players who you can always depend on, the ones who will be there in the trenches. I remember that game against Midtjylland last season in the Champions League. Like, we were at 6s and 7s, and the only thing that stabilized everything was Henderson just coming on the pitch and just calming everything down. And we didn't need a result there, but we certainly didn't need to be humiliated by a bunch of part-timers. And Henderson come on and made sure that didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? We didn't lose that game. So, like, these are the moments for me when, these players, they stand up. You know what I mean? They stand up and they're counted.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I want to lead on to the Milner because it's my topic, right? This fella's a freak. I've when we signed him and they gave him the number 7 jersey, I was prepared to break my pitchfork and march to Anfield and have a march and march round Anfield and give out stink. Right. When I watched him play, even up to his 4th season with Jurgen Klopp, he had 2 Heinz tin cans for feet. He couldn't stay up on his feet and he kept falling over loads, right? And he inexplicably in his 4th season with Klopp would fall over though and create things. Remember he was playing a fullback and he had like 105 million assists from right back.
Yeah,
but he couldn't stand up.
No, do you remember it when he played out wide right and he's delivering all these balls and getting assists?
Yep. However, James Milner's first era-defining game was in 2004, 2005. When Arsenal beat Leeds 5-0 and ended the not the Don Revie, obviously. What was your man's name? Who was the chairman? Dave O'Leary. Peter, what's his name?
Ridsdale.
Ended the Ridsdale era. Ended that whole Leeds era that was there. Then in 2012 or 2013, he's part of the Manchester City team that thumps United 6-1 and completely ends the Fergie era, right? And look at here we are, 2021. Think about that for a second. 2021.
Is he still the youngest Premier League scorer?
No, I don't think it's the youngest player.
Really take that. I thought he scored when he was 16 or something, didn't he, for Leeds?
Something ridiculous. And he had a moustache. People forget about the moustache he had when he made his debut for Leeds as well. It's outrageous, right? But this fella is 106 years of age, right? He played in the last game that we won by 5 goals in Old Trafford in 1895. Right? But even looking at it, right, I still look at him, when you see his name in the team sheet, going, today's going to be the day he cracks. But he doesn't. He's like, I don't know. It's just stunning. He's about the same age as me. Obviously doesn't have as many kids as me, but look, he's about the same age as me. And it's incredible. I've become a fan of him. I have to say, I just love, I think he's the best free signing we've ever made. And we've made some good ones, but this fella is just brilliant. And I'm not one to give out roses and plaudits and flowers and all, but like, I can't remember.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a Liverpool legend, which is mad because he's played for so many teams in the Premier League. But he's a Liverpool legend now, as far as I'm concerned.
Come here, and that's you'll often nail your colours to the mast about players, and there's been lots of them down the years. Stuart Downing,
don't ruin me. Don't ruin this. Don't.
Markovic,
but see what happens when you mention Markovic.
There's James Milner. Like you've been happy to admit you're wrong, and I think Milner did have quite a few doubters when he came. Maybe his performances didn't meet the standard of fans, or maybe they didn't like the look of how he plays. But yeah, there should, again, like with Henderson or certain players, there should be no questioning these guys now. He's unbelievable, and he's got so much to offer. You can just tell he's so influential in the dresser. You can see there's a lot of talking. If you're at the game and you're watching them all, he does a lot of talking. There's certain players that go onto the pitch and they kind of pass on, embody Klopp as such when they're on the pitch. And I think I've said it here before, if Klopp could reincarnate any other player that could go back to when they're 16 or 17, it'd be Milner to have them all the way through another decade, because that's what he is. These players are so complete in what they can do for you, all the different positions he can play. We talked about the squad depth. Players like James Milner add 3 players to your squad because they can play everywhere. And, they come on to close out games, or if there's a particular game that needs it, even if everybody's fit, it might just suit Milner. And that's the beauty you have him around. It seems like he's been 36 for years. It seems like he's been getting sold for years. But again, these guys, like James Milner, they just prove people wrong over and over and over again. Like, we're so lucky to have him. He's by far the best free signing. I know they're signing on fees, and you can argue what's free these days, but Liverpool went and got him.
Yep.
That's been one of the most important signings. What he's given Klopp since he's been at the club, it's great, and I hope he stays around and he doesn't piss off to try and get minutes somewhere else. But if he can stay around and they can manage his minutes, because he plays a lot more football than players that we paid big money for, and he's outlasted players in that midfield as well. That you would have thought Milner was going. You often hear certain folk saying that Klopp has tried to replace Milner and Henderson for years. Well, they're the last boys standing, aren't they? Because there they are. If you're trying to keep replacing them, if that's what's been happening, there they are. No bother to them. So I'd love to see Milner around for a long time and be a coach or backroom staff.
I mean, Thomas Connolly there in the chat is saying he'll be on the coaching staff soon. I mean, I think that's something I think a lot of us at this point would like to happen. You think about the example that he could bring to the academy players. We've already seen it when he's been there on the sidelines in the League Cup games in the past when we just went with complete youth. So. Milner for Ballon d'Or and the young 2021. No, but look, it probably is a stretch to think he'll get more than this season, to really make an impact. But you just never know with him because he's basically filling the 2 positions at the moment. He's proven to be a backup for right back. It's such a shame that Gomez has shown us how shite he is as right back in the past. Because he'd be perfect in the current situation to be operating as a backup right back, but he's our backup right back. He's a backup midfielder. He's being counted upon in both of those scenarios now, and we'll need him to make a contribution this season if we're gonna win the league, if we're gonna win the Champions League.
Shane, on Milner, right? Because I've seen some comments about him, and it's like we're supposed to go over the top because we're celebrating him. And I have an issue with that, right? Because this is a fella who's come to the club, and have we been out of the Champions League places since he came?
Well, Roger signed him, didn't he? So
yeah. So with the exception, that as soon as Klopp comes in, he's been ever present in that squad under Klopp, and he hasn't been out of the Champions League spots. He's gone and won a Champions League, and he's also won a league title for us.
And he was wasn't he the only person with league winning experience in the whole squad?
Yeah, like the turnaround happens on his watch.
Yeah. I agree with Andy. Probably the best free signing we've ever made. I was going to make the point Dicko made, wasn't it? That was when Liverpool were in the Club World Cup and he was injured, and the young players had to play. And I think Neil Critchley came out and said he was a huge influence around the place and a huge help to him in that game. So I don't know, it was a Blackpool or Oldham or someone we played. But do you know what? It only kind of dawned on me. It actually dawned on me in the Atletico game that he's a hard man without the swagger of a hard man. Do you know that kind of way? I don't know if I'm putting that point across. He's just somebody. You don't cross him. I'd say if you went at him, like proper went at him, I'd say he'd bite the bollocks out of you. But he's very unassuming. I think he's a hard man. Like, he has the dark arts which you need. He most definitely has the dark arts that you need. And I think with like some of that behind the scenes stuff that the club put out, the content, I've seen a couple of them, and you'll see some in a couple of them. So senior players looking to Milner for a bit of acceptance over something, there'll be a bit of banter flying around the dressing room, and I'll be shouting to Millie, well, what do you think? What do you think on that? So he's obviously he's obviously the leader in the dressing room. But what I love about him is he's a hard man without that ridiculous hard man swagger that Kane and Vieira like to have. I think he's great.
Would it be fair to call?
I remember playing when I played football as a kid. There was this lad who was in school with, and he reminds me so much of James Milner. He knew every time you went in for a tackle with him, he was just like running into a wall, but he wasn't dirty, and he wasn't like like one of these unassuming lads. But as soon as you went in for a tackle, he was just solid. And I can imagine going in for a tackle with James Milner, you'll know about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just that type of player who will just be like a wall when you're going in hard on a 50-50. You'll know that you've come out the other end of the tackle with James Milner.
He's a killer whale, isn't he? Like, they look all free, like cuddly and the whole lot, right? Yeah. But like, they join in a load of clubbing of seals and eat them. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing really nice about him. You can just tell by his smile. He has this pretendy smile that goes on, which is actually really sinister. Look at it next time. Next time you're looking at, when you see him smiling.
Next time he gets booked, look at it. Yeah, next time he gets booked.
it's and that's when his true side comes out. It's like his killer whale side. It's like he's just cruising around the side of the beach. There's like a little seal. I'm just gonna go in for a little swim, and the next minute he just eats him. And that's basically what James Milner is, and he refuses to play a match without getting a yellow card as well. When I saw that he got a yellow card, it made my day, because the first thing, James Milner just comes on and just basically just kills somebody, gets a yellow card, and is happy to play the rest. Yeah, free Millie. It's the follow up to Free Willy, but Free Millie is So next time, remember that James Milner is indeed a killer whale. And talking about killer whales and things of the sea and massive creatures like a blue whale, biggest land mammal there is, the biggest footballer in the world right now, Shane, is Mohamed Salah. But he just doesn't do things on the football pitch that's amazing, like hat-tricks in Old Trafford and laughing at that Ronaldo having a little tantrum. I'm still not convinced that that's really Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo is I think that's an Amanda Stavely version of Ronaldo, right? I don't think it's. I think
it's that statue they got.
It's not him. It's that statue just running around, or one of a motorized waxwork, because look, it doesn't move around that much at all, and just tries to kick people in the bum, and then gets upset because he's getting pushed all over the shop by little fellas. But Shane, Mohamed Salah, you wanted to talk about him, and I was hoping that we just wax lyrical about it. It was another amazing performance and ridiculousness in his touch. And then I could give out a bit of the fact that David De Gea is more stuck to his line than a Sabutio goalkeeper ever was. And whatever happened to David De Gea, he was replaced by it as well, and he's another Amanda Stavely job. But you wanted to have a different angle on Salah. So
yeah, look, I don't. You streak and go around waxing lyrical, and I'll join in about that performance. But I just said, listen, I haven't listened to the boys last night yet. I listened to it in the morning. I'm sure there was a lot of waxing lyrical about Salah, but I just decided kind of with like that Saudi takeover is coming in, a lot of human rights stuff and LGBT and women's rights, and just kind of Salah's work that he's kind of done off the pitch in recent years. Like he's been like he was on Toy Mag. He was obviously on Biggest Lamb. There it is. Right, he was on Toy Magazine's cover for a Muslim man, right, as one of the most infamous. David James. I'll just stop and we'll just keep all the comments coming in because they're on fire. It's quality. It's quality.
Okay, go on.
Quality. No, listen, just like Toy Magazine, he's on the cover as one of the most influential people in the world. He was on that environmental thing with the Royals there last week or the week before, that Earthshot thing. But it's more, listen, he's like he has a daughter himself, and he's recently campaigned in the last few years for women's rights for Muslims, which is obviously a very kind of topical thing with the Saudi takeover. He's been quoted as saying, "Listen, we have to change how women are treated in our culture. It's not really negotiable. They have to be treated better." And just tying it all in together, really, that like as equally as impressive as he is on the pitch as he is off the pitch, because with this Saudi thing, like there's like Palace fans had a banner that the police investigated about a banner against the Newcastle game about kind of human rights issues over there. Listen, Saudi Arabia, they let women drive. I think last year they opened that up, but the main campaigner for women's rights to drive over there, your man agreed to let women drive, and then he threw her in jail, and she's still in jail. So, like, there's obviously issues. Like, I'm not going to come on here. There's far more intelligent people than me that can talk about them, but it's more about Salah. He's after putting his head in the chopping block and coming out to campaign for these things. So that's all. Look, we're just throwing it out there to you about. Look, he's equally as impressive off the pitch as on it.
Andy, Salah is a bigger person than either Ronaldo or Messi ever have been, even within the short time frame he's been at Liverpool, in terms of taking on issues that are bigger than football. My biggest, like, he's really using his platform to do different things, and it's incredible. I go back to it. He's so big, we don't realize how big he is.
We do.
We don't fully appreciate it. We see Liverpool, we see amazing things. But I'm saying to you, outside of Liverpool, because it's very hard to take our prism off, right, and look at it from another thing. But this fella is so big at this point. He could be bigger than Jesus or
Rocky,
Jeff Bezos. Like, this is how big he is. Elon Musk, he could be bigger than him.
Yeah.
Now, Elon Musk isn't that tall, so it could be bigger than him, but like, sorry.
Yeah, look, we appreciate him as Liverpool fans. We adore him, we idolise him. We've finally come around to the fact that he may well be the greatest player that's ever played for Liverpool, and all the glory that they've had and all the amazing players they had. This fella is the best, you know what I mean? And that's on the pitch. And then Klopp also talks about how much of a wonderful person he is, how much of a humble human being, how much of a nice guy he is. And there doesn't seem to be a bad bone in his body. Everything he says, when he has to take credit after a game, he seems almost embarrassed. He's so humble, it's unbelievable. And what that was brought up tonight, I think, is a really good topic. And what it does highlight as well is how Western, not in the Western world, how he is being received and portrayed by the media. Because I think there's a certain amount of negativity. People outside the Liverpool supporters see him as a bit of a villain for some reason. He's painted as a cheat, a diver. Somehow or another, people just don't believe he's as good as he is. And that has to be how the media are painting him. What people are listening to and what they're exposed to, whether they're watching Sky or the newspapers. But there he is doing some really, really important work for his culture, and it doesn't seem to be as publicized. You can guarantee it, if he was from a Western culture, like Messi, like Ronaldo, or if he was American, he'd be everywhere. But there's still the certain fear exists because he's Muslim, and the people need to own up to that. Like, as Liverpool fans, we couldn't give a shit where somebody's from. We love them all, but whatever it is about the UK, they don't want to put him up on the pedestal with others where he deserves to be. There's a lot of deniers out there who don't think he's even the greatest player in the world at the moment, when he absolutely is. There's no one to touch him at the minute. No one to touch him. And the stuff he's doing off the pitch.
I think it's just now, Andy, that it's got to the point where like there's no hiding place for people in terms of calling them the best. Like it's almost a last resort now that it's got like that people are calling them the best player. And you're right, like I think people have, I mean, even as recent as last season, I think people were trying to I think there's this narrative out there that trying to sort of frame like Bruno Fernandes as the best player in the Premier League because of what he didn't come in and made such an impact at United. Harry Kane, even fairly recently Jamie Vardy. Like there's definitely this kind of narrative that gets put out there as to like the best player in the Premier League, and for some reason that spotlight just doesn't seem to be on Liverpool players is my view on it. I mean, and I don't know if it's because he's, for the last few years, he has kind of shared the limelight a little bit, certainly in terms of the goals and contributions with Mane, for example. There's almost like, it's almost like
only Mo Salah show everywhere they go, isn't it?
Yeah. But like it's a bit of a double, it's a bit of a double act almost up to this point. But it's just now got this, a hat trick at Old Trafford, but that not just, we'll come on to it about the inevitability of it all. It's almost like it's just now that people have got to, they've no hiding place now. You actually got egg all over your face if you want to start insisting that other people are better than them in the Premier League and elsewhere for that matter.
Yeah, but we see like lots of what I was saying there to you. Like, you see plenty of tweets, and the tweet isn't about Mo Salah. It might be about Harry Kane, Jamie Vardy, Bruno Fernandes, blah blah. But the tweet would be only Mo Salah has more goals and assists than Jamie Vardy or than Bruno Fernandes. Every tweet is only Mo Salah. Only Mo Salah, only Mo Salah, and the tweet or the Instagram post or whatever, it isn't aimed about Salah. It's aimed about the other person, bigging that person up. But the first line of them all is only Mo Salah has more. Only Mo Salah has more. Only Mo Salah has more. It's crazy. It's crazy.
He is. I don't think I'll ever get bored about talking about him. I remember how excited I was when we signed him. I know how excited I get when I see him play. Every time he gets in the ball, there's people have given out about that he misses too many chances, whatever. For a fella who guarantees nearly 30 goals a season, he's not missing that many, right? And this season, I don't know whether it's because he's coming up for contract renewal or potentially what it is, right? But the way that second last season on a player's contract, it tends to be fucking immense, right? And this seems to be out off the charts. This is Virgin Record stuff. This is incredible, right? This is going to be, unless something happens to him, I don't know what he could end up with 50 goals this season.
Do you remember the goal against United at home where we basically won the league? He took Alisson, played the ball to him. That was his 15th goal of that season in all competitions, and he's 15 now.
I know
that was his 15th.
We're not even out of October.
No, exactly. Frightening.
Yeah, it's incredible, and he's this team's talisman. When we look back at it in 15 years, sorry, Andy, but when we do look back at it in 15 years, we'll have talked about Van Dijk and everything, and it'll just keep coming around. And then do you remember Salah? Do you remember Salah did this? Do you remember Salah did this? Do you remember he did this? Do you remember that goal he scored? Do you remember that touch he made? Do you remember the big smile on his head? Do you remember he had a hairy chest and then he didn't have a hairy chest? Do you remember like one day he turned up and he had a beard, the next day he didn't, and then he was doing that Pepsi ad, and then he does that Pepsi ad is ridiculous as well, where he does it in one take, and I was doing to keep you up, and he turns and he hits it on the volley and he knocks the ball off the tire. Everything is just, and then he does all the other stuff.
But he's 29, Phil. He's at the peak of his powers. We are so fortunate to have him when he's playing the best football of his career, and let's just hope that it ends up propelling us to at least one more league, because whether he stays or goes, we absolutely have to take advantage of the fact that we've got the best player in the world right now, because it'd be an absolute kind of travesty almost if we don't win anything else off the back of not just have a Mo, but obviously the cast around him sort of thing. Like we have to win another league with the best player in the world in your side, because otherwise it's just all these nice memories. As brutal as that might sound, like that's all it's going to be. And we've had plenty of nice memories with lots of nice players down the years who've been not quite the best in the world because there's been better around them at the time, but they've been bloody good at the time, that we've had them, and we've not won league titles as a result. We need to win a league title off the back of Mo Salah playing the best football of his career.
Phil, that just that comment there, who cares about the media? Well, like, I mean, what Davo's brought up there is about what he's doing off the pitch, which isn't very really, widely publicized by the English media. And whether you like it or not, whether you care about the media or not, they have a responsibility to deliver news the right way and in an impartial way. And it doesn't seem to be, they don't seem to be doing that. As Ray said, this guy is at the peak of his powers. He's 29 years of age. He's the best player in the world at the moment. And these people have a platform to spread a good message and to create equality, to connect the world better, and have all these negative things that are said about Muslim communities, and get people talking constructively about it, and to improve the rights for people in these different cultures. So, like, who cares about the media? I don't particularly like the media, but like, it isn't. They do play an important role, and they're not giving Mo a fair crack of the whip in terms of his recognition as a player and his recognition as a human, that the work he's doing off the pitch. Players don't have to do that, but he's doing that, for his people, for his family, and the world. And he needs to be listened to, and the media aren't doing a decent job in spreading that. And someone there in a comment, I just have to address this. I don't know who he's speaking about. I hope it's not us. And I don't see any negativity about Islam in the comments either. So do fuck off.
Can I just say something? Everyone's saying that at the moment. I've been telling you this for 3 years. Mo Salah is the best player in the world, full stop. Right? He's better than Messi, has been for the past 3 years. He's better than Ronaldo, has been for the past 3 years. He's basically been the best player since the year we went to the Champions League and didn't win it. Right? He's different class. He just does things that those lads used to do but don't do anymore. People go on about Messi and all this, but you're all living in past YouTubes, right? You know what I mean? This fella's doing it every week, and he's getting better and better and better and better. And when it comes to the contract, if he wants £1 million a week.
Sorry, Phil, goes across you. I was going to say, you were saying all the way back to that Champions League final. I mean, Ramos knew full well what he was dealing with and took him out. He was that determined to take him out because he knew the impact all the way back then that Mo Salah was potentially going to have on that game. So, this is how long he's been operating at an absolute elite level.
Fella is on a different planet to other footballers at the moment, and you can see he's doing the touches and all the things that Messi was praised so highly for. And it's just natural to him in the same way it was just natural to Messi. A fella is different level to everything else when you see the number of touches he's able to take from the 18-yard line to the 6-yard line, right? And the ball just stays glued to his foot as he takes them, right? And I know it's down to David James De Gea in goal. I don't understand what's happened to him. He's literally had he's definitely a replaced spot. That's not what you remember De Gea like 3 or 4 years ago when we played against him.
And by the way, Phil, sorry to cut across on that, he's actually been a level above how bad he was. Like he's improved. De Gea has been better this year than he has been in the last couple of years, and he hasn't been great this year.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, for me, I'm looking at a guy who's just doing things that no other footballer can do on the earth at this moment. Not at this moment, he's been doing it for 3 years, and he's doing it. And he's using his platform. Back to your point, Shane. It's not in the English media. It's not put in the English media because the English media is heavily influenced by a right-wing agenda, and it has been for donkeys, right? And that's just the way it is. Anything we're getting is coming from foreign press or the Associated Press or somewhere that's European focused in terms of what's going on there. Those stories are coming, or this club are pushing the fact that he's at this Earth Summit, he's at this other thing, and he's doing this, and they're doing it. But they need to push it more. This is the type of stuff we need LeBron James to put him up on the shoulders and say, "Here's Mo Salah, go and tell the world what you need to tell us." And that's what we want. That's what we have the Nike contract for. That's why LeBron James bought into the club. We need to use his reach, his globalness, to bring Salah to that level, and selling something like that to him as a reason to sign with the club. You might get 565 million quid a week at Saudi Arabia, Newcastle, right? But you won't get this, and you won't get the platform. Nobody cares about Newcastle. Honestly, nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about City. Outside of, unless you're playing them or they're in the Champions League, nobody pays attention to them. Like, there's absolutely no coverage. They're nothing side. Right, but a bit like I'm a Bears fan. Everyone knows I'm in the NFL. But like these brands, these global clubs, these clubs that have existed for at least 40 to 50 years and have been at the center of these great moments in European football and world football that's there in front of you. That gives you a platform that no other player has. My worry is, and my biggest worry is, that a team with a bigger platform that potentially gives him a bigger voice is the reason why he thinks to himself, you know what, I am going to make that step. I'm going to have a new challenge, but I'm going to use that platform to get where I need to go to, which is a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, or something like that, right? And that to me is the biggest concern I have. But like, I think we have to tell him that you are our icon. You are the front of this club, and we need to put him there, and we need to back whatever he does. And I'm serious. We need John Henry to ring LeBron James and get them doing a LeBron's barbershop programming thing on HBO with Mo Salah, and let Mo Salah do whatever he wants to soapbox for an hour and have it all over HBO in America and give him the platform that he needs. Honestly, that's if you're watching, John, because I know you do tune in, and we were talking about it when we were on the Austin. Please get on to LeBron there. Give him a shout. I have his number if you want it, and we can get it sorted out.
Ask LeBron to pay a few bob towards his wage that it's going to cost, because unless we stump up the dough, he's out. He's gone.
We're getting the dough. Don't worry about it. So I told you we're getting bought up with the mafia. It's the way we're fighting back. Right? We just need to keep it quiet. Oh, we have a last topic. What was the last topic that we're going to talk about? I could have had a smart segue, and I've completely forgot about it. I went off topic on a rant. But Dicko's.
The inevitability.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the inevitability of yesterday, like, for me, I mean, this has been glorious today, really, especially having the bank holiday over here in Ireland to just sort of revel in what happened. But you know, we've spoken about this before. You know, about it's been a topic in itself about how people go into games, how people view a particular opposition at the weekend. You know, there's probably some people now are thinking, you know, Brighton are a banana skin at the weekend, and so on and so forth. But for me, this game, leading into this game, to me, it was just there was an inevitability about what happened yesterday. I mean, anyone who's been, I think I mentioned it before, anyone who's been watching, you know, United in particular, and obviously Liverpool over the last few weeks, would have seen this coming a mile off. And aside from, you know, sort of irrational fears of going to Old Trafford in years gone by, and sort of, you know, showing them too much respect, or, you know, something going wrong on the day, you know, all that to one side. I mean, you know, there was 2 3-2 victories in the week in Champions League games, and they were like the polar opposite. Like we dispatched of Atletico Madrid in such a professional manner. I mean, we could have blown that game out the water early doors. They come back. You know, the crowd over there was never taken out of the game. You know, we had Simeone, you know, on the conductor on the sidelines. We put up with all of that. And we still come out there with a 3-2. United, on the other hand, were absolutely garbage against Atalanta. I mean, how they managed to turn that around. I mean, that Atalanta manager. I mean, the only saving grace for them is that they get to have a go at them again a few weeks' time. And I'd be shocked if Atalanta don't beat United in a couple of weeks' time in the return game. But walking in, I mean, a mate of mine actually did put a fiver on Liverpool to win 5-0. It was 100-1. The only thing he did wrong was he absolutely bottled it when they went down to 10 men and he cashed out at 296 quid. So he must be a little bit sick now. But to me, that just had all the ingredients of an absolute spanking. And I have to say, I sat down there. I'll be interested to hear what the other lads say. But I sat down at the start of that. I had a little snooze before. Just wanted to be full energy for each of the goals that went in. I had a little snooze for an hour. Got up at 4:25, cracked open a can, and I enjoyed every single minute of it. Absolutely outstanding game. And then all night, you know, even the NFL, I know it was a bit different for you, Phil. You know, the NFL brought you crashing down to earth, but I even got on the NFL. I had a lovely little watch of the Bengals. You know, I mean, it was a perfect Sunday evening, I have to say.
Brilliant. Matt Nagy can fuck off. I was explaining to the lads that being a Bears fan is like supporting Everton. That's the only way to describe it, or Spurs. It's the only way to describe what it's like being a Bears fan. But it's also good to know how those lads feel. But and then at the same time,
we haven't even mentioned Saturday, have we? I mean, that might be bonus content for the end. Rafa and his
shape bags.
Disgrace. Fucking disgrace.
I mean, that's the best video. That's the best video of the weekend. Forget Mo Salah. The Everton fans going ballistic at the players and the manager and everything at the end of the game. It's spectacular.
Old Trafford and Goodison Park emptied for the end of the match on the same weekend. I mean, what's not to love? Do you know what I mean?
It's just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's like the Rafa thing is probably going as well as you can expect. He's winning just enough games to keep him in the job, right? But he's not winning enough. He's not winning enough games to have them relevant, right? So he's what Ancelotti was, but without the dream, if you know what I mean. It's like they can't dream under Rafa because it's Rafa. It's mind fuckery at a level that hasn't been seen, right? Imagine, like, the only way you can describe this is imagine Liverpool signing a former United manager, and I'm not talking about and it's very hard because all the United managers have been pretty shit recently, right? But like we're talking, say Liverpool signing Fergie or Ron Atkinson or something from back in the day, right? Like that's how messed up it is. It just you look at it and you go, no, this can't be happening, but it's happening to Everton because it's great. It's just phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
I know.
Have they even start going Rafa yet?
Yeah, but they've been going Rafa from the start. Now they're going Rafa players and everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's been even. Sorry, go on. Right.
Just looking at Owen Beck. Yeah, just looking at Owen Beck. I mean, how badly can you plan a weekend? Really, you've been on the lash for 3 days at Stags, and you walk in the door. At just after 4 o'clock. Why walking in the door at 7 o'clock and saying that the coach or the plane or whatever it is you're coming back on that Stags get you home at 7 o'clock?
Johnny boys out.
An awful bit of planning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lucky Owen.
Andy, like
absolute rookie, as Davo would say.
Oh yeah, that's a rookie mistake.
Yeah,
Andy, when is Everton won't be playing Liverpool next week? I was going to say it'd be a good one for you to go along and watch. because you could just go in as an undercover spy, wave your hands around a bit, just sort of like they'll all just take it as an Evertonian. You'd be flying.
See, the funny thing, Phil, about the Rafa Everton experience is they went Russia when he got the job. Then he started off all right. So they were kind of like, we're coming around a bit, and then the arses had to fall now with the last couple of weeks, and it's all fucking hell is breaking loose.
Yeah.
The inevitability. My only worry, Ray, just going back to your topic, is this team doesn't win another league, and it's not through a lack of ability or whatever it is. It's just that City have a team full of £60 million players, and like even the toilets, when they just look around the corner and there's a fellow standing there that cost them 60 million quid. And the other bit is that the teams in the league seem to just bend over and let them score goals. They just stand still and let them score goals against them. Like, whenever a team seems to put up the City, they've managed to get a result out of them. And so few teams actually put up the City. It baffles me even to now. It's like they have a mind melt because it's Pep Guardiola, who is like, I think Klopp's a better manager. I think Klopp is a far better manager. I think he's achieved a lot more, even though he hasn't won as many trophies. But to do what he's done on the budget that he's done, is far more impressive than anything Pep Guardiola has managed in his whole career. And that's
look, I mean, I am interested to hear how Davo in particular felt before that game, because I love Davo's game.
Look, it's like I spoke. It was more Jamie speaking about it, obviously being from Liverpool. But Ray, we like when over here, it's basically Liverpool, Man United, and like going to school, Andy probably would have been the same, although he's a couple of years older than me. Like they ruined, like your school days were ruined. You used to come in the weekend, United have to be getting a scuttery 96-minute winner. Liverpool might have dropped some points. Then we went through 99, obviously as well in 99. We're 1-0 up going into injury time in the FA Cup at Old Trafford and lose 2-1. And just like basically school years ruined, right? So for that, and it's just always been a like. We went through a phase there, kind of the foul years, where we did quite well at Old Trafford. We took some draws and stuff like that when they were really good, but always a really worrying place to go. And yesterday it was more worrying because we're a far better side, and I just didn't want them to go and fucking scutter a result. So my pots had evacuated the building early doors on Sunday. I was fit to get behind the couch, even at 3-0. When the fourth went in, I was all right. I knew we were home. But even at 3, I was like, these get one. I'm up the walls again. But I'd probably go and say, apart from winning like the big trophies, it was one of my favourite days following Liverpool. It was like to go there and do that to them, humiliate them. He's probably going to lose his job on the back of it if you're reading off Twitter. He's probably going to lose his job. But for
lose
the fans,
his job anyway, Davo.
Yeah,
whether it was us or someone else.
Exactly. I'm like Sean. He said, "Fuck them. You can't look. There's no point worrying about other clubs." But for the fans to be there in the away end singing "Ollie's at the wheel" and stuff like that, you're humiliating the whole bones of the club, the fans, the players, the board, the management. You're really getting fucking under the skin and down into them. And I loved every fucking minute of it, and I love seeing the videos. And I could breathe at 4-0 right on half time.
I was Fergie's face up was priceless, wasn't it? I know Kenny's was rubbing salt in the wounds that had just been opened up there, but getting Fergie's face on camera and the beautiful expression on it.
I have to say,
it was masterful camera work, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. I hope that's the Premier League's feed as opposed to Sky's, but it wasn't with Sky's, because it's like the problem I have with that is that you just wish you could replace Tyler with Peter Drury. Did you hear Drury's commentary?
So good.
It's just great.
Good, was it? I'll have to get on to that.
Yeah.
Go and dig it out, especially when he's talking about the Mo Salah hat-trick and talking about Mo Salah himself being the best.
Drury loves Mo Salah. He
should do.
Tyler got more excited when Cavani hit the bar in fucking the 92nd minute and anywhere else.
Yeah, and do you know what we haven't mentioned? The fact that Ronaldo's goal was ruled out for offside. That was like one of those glorious moments as well. I went up to my cousin's house and I was fixing something from up in the house on Sunday morning, and his dog was walking around with its Ronaldo doll. He said, and they're like, "Oh, it's an omen. It's an omen. Yeah, look, he hasn't gone near this for months, and look, he's picked up the Ronaldo doll and he's walking around, so they wouldn't be back in Liverpool today. I was like, nah, that's just Van Dijk with Ronaldo in his mouth. He's walking around going, that job in my pocket. There you go. It's wonderful. Like to see them spend 100 million or whatever he spent on a clapped up, washed out version replace bot that Amanda Staveley has snuck in the back door into England while they weren't watching, and it's just like the other part of it is that's great. Like I hope they bring their green and gold scarves back next week for Norwich, because that's what they are. Like the fact that they were trying to get excited at the end of the game because they got a couple of corners and they might score a goal against us when we were 5-0 up, right? You see them all bouncing up and down trying to be happy and just ironically happy that they might score a goal. That's what Norwich do. And they should adopt the Norwich colours and just stick with it, because that's what they are now, is another Norwich, right? They're not relevant. They're a nothing side. When you've taken that level of beating off us in your own backyard, you're a nothing side. You're not even a rival. I'm never going to consider this game as a rivalry anymore. I have to say that it's over now. That's just put the full stop at the end of it. That's it. Remember when Liverpool United used to be rivals? It's gone. It must be hard for you United fans. We're going around sort of trying to go, because that's the way they talk. And it's like, and I can't wait to see them tomorrow. Ronaldo's back and he's going to win the league. Yeah, he is. Yeah. It's a replace spot. But yeah, that's
Ole. I mean, if Ole does survive this by some minor miracle, I mean, he's got Spurs coming up, and he's got the next home game is against Man City. I mean, what are they going to do?
Chelsea. Yeah,
and Chelsea on the horizon, is it?
Yeah. They've got Watford after City and then Chelsea.
Watford will be a full try by then, based on what we see in the weekend. Watford.
I don't see him surviving. But listen, I don't like.
It'd be good with those games coming up. With City coming up, maybe if they had a new manager in, that bit of bounce, take some points off City. I don't think we need to worry about United anymore. It's going to take a long time before any manager's going to put order to that. They've bought with such little planning for quite a few years now, and it's going to take a bit of an overhaul before they be good again. And who are they going to get? I mean, I watched that game with 2 United fans yesterday, 2 Liverpool fans, and like they're kind of saying, and you know what, I can put myself back in their shoes, how it felt. Like they're saying they'll take Steve Bruce now. Like,
oh God.
Like, and that, when you're sometimes like that, things like this happening, like it just makes you so deluded that you believe that these things are going to be good for you, So if Steve Bruce came in for a few months anyway, it'd be good. They could take some points off City.
It's not even like it's like you mentioned the planning there, Andy. It's just been so bad for so many years that they made the same mistakes over and over again. Like they signed Alexis Sanchez, giving him ridiculous amounts of money a year because City wanted to sign him. So they moved in, gave him 400 grand a week or whatever fucking madness he was getting, 350 grand a week, just to stop him signing for City because they thought City would get too far away from them. He ruined the club. He ruined any sort of wage structure they had there. And then Ronaldo becomes available this summer. Looks like he's going to City, and they do the very same thing again. And the problem that says to me is that forget about Solskjaer. There's nobody above him in any sort of Ed Woodward role or whatever role with any brains, with any balls to say, no, listen, let him go to City. We don't need him. We need a fucking player here. I'm not paying him fucking 350 grand a week just because you don't go mad because he's gone to City. So there's nobody there with any backbone. There's no organisation. And listen, like you said, you go back into I can remember them times as well where you're going back and you don't know, you can't see the end in sight, and they like long may it continue for them.
Look, the best thing,
every fucking bit of it.
The best thing that they need right now is a pandemic that gets the fans out of the stadiums. That was the best thing that ever happened. That kept Solskjaer in a job, honestly, because it's, and I've said it before on this, the worst thing to happen to United this year was getting the fans back in. They're a septic, horrible bunch of moonshites, right? And you saw from when they went back in last year having pretendy protests because they were like petulant little children waving their scarves just so that somebody'd spend loads of money on them in the summertime, because that's all it is. It's, Daddy, I want an ice cream. No, son. You've already had a Coca-Cola and a McDonald's, and I got you a milkshake earlier on. No, I want my ice cream. Get me my ice cream. No, well, I'm going to sit down here and bang my legs and stomp my hands, and we can't go anywhere until you do it. Okay, I'll get you an ice cream if you promise you'll be good. Okay, we'll be good. There's your ice cream. And then they go and drop the cone. That's exactly what United fans are, right? They're just a bunch of children, right? And they deserve what they get. So they'll be all protesting. The games will be called off, and they'll probably get the City game called off, and then they get their arse handed to them on a play.
But you know, actually, another thing about the inevitability of yesterday, we're talking about Ole and is he going to survive and so on. And at the polar opposite of where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, we've got, I think, the best manager that you could ever want right now in Jurgen Klopp, and that this is a manager who goes into these games with a plan. You know, he does his bit of squad rotation. He understands exactly what it's. All his team is on the same page. We will watch Liverpool play against Preston this week, and the personnel will be different, but the style of play and what we see and what we're used to will be almost identical, albeit with a lesser quality of player. What we've got at our club now is everything you would ever want. You know, between the amalgamation of Melwood into Kirby and all the coaching staff, everyone's on the same page. It's complete unity, and that's, you know, outside of the 5-0 and all that sort of stuff. That's the bit for me that, you know, we are a sustainable football club right now, and you can go on about, you know, but City can cash, you know, 100 million.
Stick up that comment from Wizard there, just because it's relevant to a pod I did with Gav about 2 weeks ago, saying they need a daddy to coach them and help them. Like, that's going to work. LTEL. They need to get LTEL in just to do a bit of recon, just to help out down the training ground.
Do you know what?
He can just sit on the bench, not manage the team, and just shout things at the players to help with what needs to be shouted at the thing. That's get LTEL in. It's his job. It's all over.
Ronaldo's totally fucked them up. Do you know that? If it wasn't bad enough, like he's coming there and he demands to play and start every game, and you've Cavani there who's far better, you know, in terms of what he's going to give to the team. I know who I'd want to play in the Liverpool team anyway between the two of them, because he makes a massive difference. There was a snippet up under that, I think it was one of the European games. Ronaldo gave up on the ball, and Cavani just came out a shot in the camera to chase down the ball on the byline, and that's what you want. Ronaldo is just disruptive, and at the very beginning when he arrived, there were all talk about the influence he has around the place, because they were watching his play, and he didn't order dessert, and all of a sudden all the players weren't ordering dessert. But that's like
absolute balls.
Yeah. And you might frame that very positively, but if the players are now watching what they're comfortable doing, it's a kind of, it creates a bit of a toxic thing. And I think is a bit of a power play as well. You know, he's so much bigger than Solskjaer in that dressing room. You know, it's very, very dysfunctional, and it was a bad move to bring him in, I think. And it's not going to be any better for Steve Bruce when he arrives. And Ronaldo will make shit of him too.
but not if LTEL is there, because LTEL knows how to handle players.
Look at Keith's comment there. Keith's shouting, Steve. Someone's mentioning Steve McLaren coming in.
There we go. That is the United version of the Middlesbrough Brian Robson to LTEL. And hopefully get a few fat players in to help them get sorted out as well. Andy, I want to, because we've got 4 minutes left, and these are quick ones. I want to get into.
How do we 4 minutes left? You're meant to finish at 11.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's an Irish 11, so it's 11:30. What time be home? About 11. 11:30. You roll in the door. Right. Look, the question I have for you is very quickly. Klopp is off in 2024. would you let him do a Warren Gatland and just take a year off and let him come back? Because like what Warren Gatland did when he was the Wales rugby manager, he used to take just the odd year off just to go off and recharge his batteries and come back, and then he'd win a championship, and then he'd get bored and he'd go off for a year. So rather than knowing that we have this cliff edge, which is Jurgen Klopp is going to pack it in 2024, because we saw what happened when Ferguson did this at United the first time he was going to pack it in.
That was the topic there of conversation. There was an article, can't even remember who wrote it, but anyway, this was this kind of idea that he would have. First of all, where did Klopp say that he wants 1 year off? I think he just wants away from it all permanently.
Yeah, career break.
That he can live his life.
It's a career break.
It's not 1 year. Klopp wants to retire early and chill out and maybe manage an international team.
He's not allowed. This is the point, right? So do you just give him the year off and say, here, listen?
Yeah. And then what happens? Like, nobody buys into the new manager. And what if the new manager does well? It's a bit of an unheard thing in football.
I'd say there's more chance of him signing an extra year or two than that happening.
Yeah, so do I. An extra 2 years and then go off and retire for good. If Klopp ever said
retire for good, he's gonna go back. He's gonna take the Germany gig.
Yeah. If Klopp said, I want to go off and manage Germany, it's just what I need to do right now. I want to move home and I want a part-time job just managing Germany for a few years, but I want to come back, and of course you're not going to say no. But it's a very tricky scenario in the middle, like who buys the players, who sells the players, who, I can't see that working out. It's a bit of a fantasy thing. It's, we're desperate to have more years of Klopp, no matter what the conditions are. So whatever Klopp wants.
Right. Andy's being a fucking spoiled sport. Would you let him have a career break and tell him, look, you can have a year off, come back and manage us, or else? Because remember, the Mafia's going to be on the club at this stage.
No, I mean, that just sounds completely bonkers. I mean, look, we can want him forever, but there'll be an inevitability about him going. I mean, I just hope we can succession plan, get Stevie in, and carry on.
So he can be aired all day.
Shane, what point the next season do the people who don't like Henderson and Milner and champion everybody else start saying Klopp has lost interest and that we should actually be looking for a replacement, and start naming fellas who are managing in the Bulgarian 4th division and the Russian 5th tier?
If they'll do it from the summer, they'll keep doing it all year, and they'll keep accounts for the summer, and they'll keep going into next season. That's exactly what they'll do. Me and Moyle championing fucking Naby Keita, even when he's fucking bad, and they'll be championing Andre Wisdom to come back and sign and play centre back
as a captain. Right.
Just say it as it is. If you think someone played shit, they played shit. If they played well, they played well.
And that's the best way to be.
Exactly.
Unless you're sure.
Brendan Rodgers going to Old Trafford will be glorious.
Rodgers as the next manager will be fantastic. It will be fantastic. But I think I think Conte is probably next on the block for United.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be Conte. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be somebody looking for a big wage check, and you'll get it as well. Right, lads, listen, we have now 1 minute and 7 seconds to go. There's all the Sienna steps, all the links are there, so get on it and support and do whatever you can. There's some mad things going on, like a load of firefighters climbing Carrantoo Hill in full kit to raise money. That's mental. I've climbed Carrantoo Hill in a pair of shorts and a hoodie and all the hiking gear you're meant to do in the middle of summer, and it was an absolute, like, you were melting. So bless the lads going up the mountains and those things, because what you don't realise is there's about a 4 kilometre walk just to start climbing up the mountain. That's the bit that really freaks you out. So best luck with that, and if you can't support, you can. Quickly, Ray, who scores against Preston, or who do we beat Preston in the League Cup?
Yeah, I do. I think whatever the
quick score. 4-1. Andy, score.
7-0.
Shane.
3-0.
Excellent stuff. Emma Kavanagh, you also won quote of the night, which are David De Gea, Spanish for David James. That quote wasn't beaten by anybody else on the whole thing. This has been the forum. I've been your host. That's Andy. That's Shane. That's Ray. Good night. God bless.